Back to the Future. 1985 isn't just a movie, it's a timeless classic that defined pop culture and made stars like Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, and Lea Thompson household names. From the DeLorean to Great Scott, its moments are unforgettable, even 40 years later. But what happened to the cast after the trilogy ended? Some went on to Hollywood fame, others shifted to surprising careers, and a few faced personal challenges along the way. In this video, we take a look at the Back to the Future cast in 2025, where they are now their biggest life updates and the unexpected turns their journeys have taken since that legendary film. Wendy Jo Sperber was born on September 15, 1958, and played Linda McFly in Back to the Future 1985 at age 27. As Marty's younger sister, she was designed to be a background character, a quirky girl dealing with family chaos, but audiences remembered her for her offbeat charm and the way she made the McFly household feel authentic. She gave Linda a vulnerability hidden under sarcasm, which made the role relatable. Her childhood, however, was scarred by constant instability. Raised in Hollywood in a broken household, she grew up in the shadow of siblings who excelled academically, while she was mocked for her weight and hyperactive personality. Teachers often described her as too loud a label she carried with bitterness into adulthood. While she carved a niche in comedy, her career was a roller coaster of humiliations, cast repeatedly as the funny fat friend denied serious auditions and often laughed out of rooms before finishing her lines. The collapse of her sitcom, Babes, after one season, became her biggest heartbreak, a failure she privately said confirmed Hollywood never wanted her as more than a punchline. Her marriage to Richard Velasquez dissolved in an ugly custody battle with accusations of neglect and erratic behavior clouding her image. Friends recalled her struggling with binge eating and bouts of deep depression. In 1997, she was diagnosed with breast cancer and concealed the gravity of her illness while masking her vulnerability with jokes. She died on November 29, 2005 in Los Angeles at age 47, the disease having metastasized. Her estate, valued around $1.5 million, included a modest Los Angeles property, film residuals, and her efforts through the We Spark Cancer Support Center, which she founded. While Hollywood never gave her the credit she deserved, her death revealed the tragedy of a woman who hid her despair behind laughter until the very end. Elsa Raven, born September 24, 1929, played the Clock Tower Lady in Back to the Future 1985 at age 56, her impassioned plea to save the clock tower cementing her as an unforgettable piece of the film's mythology. But in contrast to her spirited cameo, her life was marked by loneliness and heartbreak. Born Elsa Rabinowitz in Charleston, South Carolina, into a conservative Jewish family, she grew up suppressed with little space for creativity or emotional openness. As a young actress in New York, she was repeatedly dismissed as too intense or too plain rejected for glamorous roles that instead went to her rivals. The sting of being cut from the Amityville Horror at the last minute haunted her, as her biggest career wound one that made her increasingly bitter toward the industry. While she found dignity in Titanic and fleeting recognition in small television parts, her personal life remained riddled with shadows. She never married, though Hollywood insiders whispered of a long affair with a married producer that left her ostracized when it collapsed. Known as reclusive and abrasive, she rarely granted interviews, reinforcing her reputation as difficult. Friends recalled her later years as marked by isolation with health troubles she refused to address publicly. On November 2, 2020, she died in Los Angeles at age 91, cremated with her ashes, quietly returned to family. Her estate, valued under $500,000, included modest savings, a small home, and residuals from her long list of supporting roles. She left no heirs, and no public memorial, her legacy distilled to a single unforgettable line. Behind that moment, however, was a lifetime of rejection, secrecy, and private despair. Her career a haunting reminder of how fleeting Hollywood recognition can be. George DiCenzo, born April 21, 1940, portrayed Sam Baines-Lorraine's no-nonsense father in Back to the Future, 1985, at age 45. His role was small, yet vital, grounding the 1955 setting in stern parental authority and providing Marty with another wall to climb in his desperate mission. Off-screen, though, DiCenzo's life had none of that stability. Raised in New Haven, Connecticut, he endured a strict, emotionally cold upbringing. His father, a rigid disciplinarian who crushed any spark of creativity in him. Acting became a way to escape, but the scars remained. His career built quietly through character roles and prolific voice work, yet he was infamous within industry circles for his volatility. He clashed with directors, berated crew members, and alienated peers. His darkest professional blow came when he aggressively lobbied for a leading role in Law & Order, only to be rejected publicly, leaving him embittered and his reputation stained by whispers of arrogance and cruelty. Rumors circulated that his perfectionism veered into emotional abuse, a label that followed him and limited opportunities. His marriage to Donna Arts DiCenzo was strained by his obsessive work ethic and long periods of isolation. They had no children, leaving his later life steeped in loneliness. Friends noted his struggle with depression and alcohol, particularly after several stage projects collapsed due to poor ticket sales. On August 9, 2010, he died of sepsis in Pennsylvania at age 70, a quiet end far from the fame he once sought. His estate, worth roughly $2 million, consisted of teaching income royalties from voice acting and modest property holdings. Though undeniably talented, he remained trapped in the margins of Hollywood, a cautionary tale of a man whose temper and frustrations overshadowed what could have been a celebrated career. Norman Alden was born on September 13, 1924, and played Lou the gruff diner owner in Back to the Future, 1985, at age 61. His no-nonsense delivery made Lou feel like a fixture of small-town Americana, but behind the counter, Norman carried his own reservoir of disappointments. Born in Fort Worth, Texas, he came from a working-class family, battered by the Depression, raised in an environment where emotional vulnerability was mocked, and he often covered insecurity with a hardened exterior. After serving in World War II, he turned to acting, but though he was prolific, appearing in over 2,500 productions, he was never allowed to break into leading roles. Hollywood labeled him the everyman extra, typecasting him as coaches, mechanics, and background characters, a stigma that quietly ate away at him. His most crushing career blow came when Disney cut him out of the sequel to The Sword in the Stone, where he had voiced Merlin, leaving him bitter and humiliated after decades of loyalty. He was known among colleagues for his stubbornness, frequently clashing with casting directors, and gossip circled that his temper cost him bigger opportunities. His personal life was equally fractured. His marriage to Sharon Hayden collapsed in 1978, and though he had 2 children, Brent and Ashley, they kept their distance, describing him as emotionally distant and often absent. In later years, he lived quietly, plagued by fading health and financial insecurity, clinging to minor residual checks. On July 27, 2012, Alden died of natural causes in Los Angeles at 87. His estate, including modest property and small royalties, was valued at around $1 million. For a man who appeared in thousands of roles, his face remains strangely invisible in Hollywood's history, remembered only in fragments, as though his life's work had dissolved into the background like the characters he played. Reed Morgan, born on January 30, 1931, played the Hill Valley Cop in Back to the Future. 1985, at age 54. A fleeting authority figure whose brief screen time belied a life full of tension and unspoken scandal. His character was the archetypal lawman symbolizing order and skepticism in a world spiraling out of control, yet Morgan's own life was anything but orderly. Growing up in Chicago, he endured a childhood of emotional neglect and a domineering father who punished curiosity and punished perceived weakness, leaving Morgan to hide his emotions behind a stoic exterior. Despite excelling in college basketball, his early ambitions were constantly thwarted by systemic setbacks, including being quietly blacklisted in the 1960s for suspected communist sympathies, a shadow that haunted him for decades. His Hollywood career was patchy minor roles, fleeting appearances, and frequent clashes with directors who found him obsessive, pedantic, and difficult. The most humiliating setback came when he was cut from a leading role in The New Centurions, after a notorious argument with the director, a blow that left him embittered and wary of the industry. His personal life was equally turbulent. His marriage to Elizabeth Oliar was marred by obsessive perfectionism, long absences and frequent arguments, and friends whispered about extramarital dalliances that never reached tabloids. Beyond professional and personal struggles, Morgan endured the slow erosion of friends and family through illness and estrangement, often retreating into isolation. He retired in 1994, fading from public consciousness. Morgan died on April 20, 2022 in Los Angeles, at age 91, leaving a modest estate of under $501,000, largely composed of pension and residuals. He remains a figure of unrealized potential, a man whose integrity and intensity never quite found a lasting home in Hollywood, remembered more for the tragedies he endured than the fleeting characters he portrayed. George Buck Flower, born on October 28, 1937, played Red the Bum in Back to the Future, 1985, at age 48. A drunken, weathered observer of Marty McFly's temporal chaos, emblematic of Flower's long career portraying society's misfits and degenerates. His screen persona, scruffy, unpredictable, and morally flexible, mirrored the chaos of his own life. Flower grew up in poverty and instability, the child of a mother who battled mental illness, and a father absent for most of his youth, forcing him to learn self-reliance and disguise shame with humor. Entering the film industry, he initially took on lowbrow roles in erotic and exploitation films under pseudonyms like C.D. LaFleur and Ernest Wall, appearing in notorious titles such as Satan's Lust and Ilsa She-Wolf of the SS, while rumors circulated that he secretly directed underground adult films in the 1970s. His career was marked by constant friction with producers and co-stars. Flower refused to conform, often walking off sets and embracing a fiercely independent, sometimes abrasive reputation. His personal life was equally chaotic. Multiple marriages ended. Acrimoniously, children were estranged, and he cultivated a persona of heavy drinking and hedonism. Financial stability eluded him despite decades of work with royalties and residuals scattered across obscure titles. Flower's health declined after years of excess, and he died of cancer on June 18, 2004, in Los Angeles at age 66. His estate, composed of minor royalties and niche film rights, was estimated at $300,000, reflecting the precarious existence of a man who lived on the margins of Hollywood. Yet Flower remains a cult figure, a ghost of the industry's seedy underbelly, remembered as much for his audacious lifestyle and unflinching independence as for the minor but memorable roles that flickered across the silver screen. Michael J. Fox, born on June 9, 1961, played Marty McFly in Back to the Future, 1985, at age 24, the rebellious, quick-witted teenager whose charm, daring, and humanity became the emotional anchor of the trilogy. Marty's character was clever, resourceful, and endlessly resilient, captivating audiences with his relatability and sense of humor amid time travel chaos. Fox's early life mirrored elements of this resilience, born into a working-class Canadian family and raised with modest means, often struggling to find food or opportunity, while hiding the insecurities of poverty behind humor and determination. His career soared rapidly, bringing fame and wealth, but behind the bright smile were battles with alcoholism and a shocking Parkinson's disease diagnosis at age 29, which he concealed for years to avoid stigma and career derailment. His marriage to Tracy Pollan has been a rare bastion of stability, yet the strain of public scrutiny, relentless work, and his declining health tested their union with insiders, noting the emotional toll of managing a household under constant media attention. Professionally, Fox faced public and private setbacks, including roles lost due to health-related scheduling conflicts and intense scrutiny from producers who doubted his reliability, though he never allowed these to define his career. Beyond acting, he became a tireless advocate for Parkinson's research, founding the Michael J. Fox Foundation, which has raised over $1.75 billion and transformed countless lives. Today, at 64, Fox resides in Manhattan, balancing limited acting work with advocacy. And his net worth is estimated at $65 million, derived from film earnings, book deals, and strategic real estate investments. His legacy is one of brilliance, perseverance, and hidden pain, a man who brought joy and optimism to millions on screen while enduring private battles that would have crushed a lesser spirit, embodying triumph not just over adversity, but over the relentless erosion of health, time, and expectation. Lea Thompson, born May 31, 1961, portrayed Lorraine Baines in Back to the Future in 1985 at the age of 24, embodying the sweet, conflicted mother-to-be whose emotional journey anchors the film's narrative. Lorraine's warmth and vulnerability made her instantly sympathetic, yet Thompson's life off-screen was defined by persistent trials and reinvention. As a ballet prodigy, she was harshly criticized by Mikhail Baryshnikov for being too stocky, crushing her youthful ambitions and instilling a drive to prove herself in acting. Her Hollywood ascent was punctuated by setbacks, including the notorious Howard the Duck, which threatened her professional credibility and subjected her to relentless mockery in industry circles. Thompson's marriage to director Howard Deutsch, though enduring, was marked by the pressures of fame balancing family life with two daughters who later became celebrities in their own right, complicating her identity and privacy. In directing, she faced repeated rejection, insiders noting that lingering perceptions from past flops limited her opportunities on high-profile projects despite proven talent. Financially, she navigated the volatile industry, carefully building a net worth of $25 million through acting, directing, and residuals shared with her husband. At 64, living today in Studio City, California, Thompson embodies resilience, having survived Hollywood's cruelties while cultivating a private, stable life. Her narrative illustrates the tension between public adoration and private struggle, showcasing a woman who turned professional setbacks, criticism, and personal pressures into a sustained, graceful career, ultimately commanding respect both on-screen and behind the camera. Baby Christopher Lloyd, born October 22, 1938, played the eccentric, brilliant Dr. Emmett Brown in Back to the Future in 1985 at the age of 46, delivering a performance that turned mad science into lovable chaos and cemented his status as a cinematic icon. Doc Brown's unpredictability, boundless energy, and moral compass made him both mentor and moral anchor, leaving audiences enchanted. Yet Lloyd's personal life contrasted sharply with his on-screen joviality. Raised in a rigid Connecticut household, he suffered a cold, aristocratic upbringing that included repeated expulsions from private schools, instilling deep-seated insecurities and a lifelong ambivalence toward authority. Lloyd's career was a roller coaster. Early-stage success was punctuated by film flops and sporadic rejections, and his intense dedication often clashed with directors who labeled him unmanageable. Off-screen, his 5 marriages, 4 ending in divorce, painted a picture of personal turbulence, and in 2008, he lost a $1.6 million Montecito estate to a catastrophic fire, a financial and emotional blow he never fully recovered from. He developed a reputation for being reclusive and difficult to interview, disappearing for years from public view, and cultivating a mystique that fueled both admiration and rumor. Industry insiders whispered of periods of depression and even a rumored breakdown during the filming of Addams Family Values. Yet Lloyd's resilience persisted. He immersed himself in voice work conventions and selective film projects that showcased his enduring talent. Now 86, he resides quietly in California. His net worth estimated at $40 million amassed from decades of film, television, and voiceover success. Lloyd's legacy is complex, a man who transformed personal instability into unforgettable performances, navigating the fires of tragedy and Hollywood politics, while leaving behind an indelible cultural imprint. Crispin Glover, born April 20, 1964, took on the role of George McFly in Back to the Future in 1985, at the age of 21, portraying the timid, bullied father whose arc of personal triumph resonates deeply with audiences. George's awkward charm and eventual courage mirrored Glover's own struggles with authority and conformity, though his off-screen life was far more chaotic and unconventional. Raised in a household that did not nurture his eccentricities, he became an early rebel, chafing against societal norms and hiding his frustrations in increasingly surreal artistic pursuits. His refusal to participate in the sequels due to salary disputes and creative control led to a landmark lawsuit over actor likeness in Hollywood, forever changing industry practices and branding him as a litigious outsider. Glover's public appearances were equally notorious. A bizarre, near-violent stint on The Letterman Show cemented his reputation as erratic and unpredictable. He lives in an eccentric Czech castle, surrounded by peacocks, swans, and elaborate personal art installations, cultivating an existence deliberately apart from mainstream Hollywood. Romantic and familial ties are non-existent. He remains unmarried and childless, further emphasizing his self-imposed isolation. His artistic output spans avant-garde films, books, and performance art, all reflecting his disdain for commercial conformity and obsession with individuality. Now 61, he commands a modest net worth of $6 million derived from cult film roles, royalties, and his idiosyncratic creations. Glover remains an enigmatic figure, a man who defied convention, challenged the industry legally and artistically, and transformed his personal rebellion into a lifelong statement of outsider artistry, forever living on the edge between genius and incomprehensibility. Claudia Wells was born on July 5, 1966, and played Jennifer Parker in Back to the Future in 1985 at age 19. Marty McFly's supportive, gentle girlfriend, whose charm offered a grounding presence in the whirlwind of time travel chaos. Jennifer was sweet, underused, yet pivotal, embodying the emotional stakes that made Marty's journey resonate. Off-screen, Wells's life was fraught with responsibility and sacrifice. She grew up in a middle-class household where ambition was often overshadowed by personal tragedy, and her teenage years were marked by constant pressure to excel despite limited family support. Her burgeoning acting career was abruptly derailed when she chose to leave Hollywood to care for her mother, who succumbed to breast cancer in 1994, a decision that cost her both fame and potential fortune. Though she returned quietly to the industry, with voice work and convention appearances, Wells has maintained an intensely private personal life. The identity of her husband remains undisclosed, and her son Sebastian has largely stayed out of the public eye. Financially, at 59, she has diversified, owning Armani Wells, a men's clothing store. Yet her net worth remains a modest $1 million, reflecting decades of careful but low-profile work. Wells has avoided scandal, yet her life reflects the quiet struggles of women in Hollywood talent, constrained by circumstance opportunities lost to caregiving, and a legacy forever tied to a film she left behind in the public imagination. She embodies the ghost of the franchise, present in memory and culture, yet never fully in the spotlight, a figure of poignant absence amid enduring fame. Marc McClure was born on March 31, 1957, and played Dave McFly in Back to the Future in 1985 at age 28, the eldest McFly sibling whose minor role offered comedic relief and familial grounding, but left him overshadowed by the story's leads. Dave was meek, easily dominated, and unremarkable on screen, a fitting parallel to McClure's own career trajectory, which, despite early promise, never reached the heights his talent might have suggested. Raised in a modest family environment, McClure's childhood was stable, yet emotionally reserved. He experienced neither extreme deprivation nor public ridicule, but he internalized a sense of invisibility that would echo throughout his life. His acting career included multiple appearances as Jimmy Olsen in the Superman films, yet he repeatedly faced the frustration of being typecast stuck in supporting roles and minor parts despite years of consistent work. Unlike his co-stars, McClure has avoided the tabloid spotlight entirely. No public relationships, no legal battles, no scandals, crafting a private life removed from Hollywood's glare. Friends suggest a man content with anonymity, quietly enduring the indignities of typecasting while cultivating personal passions out of the limelight. Financially, McClure has lived modestly. His net worth is estimated between $100,000 and $1 million, reflecting steady but unremarkable earnings from acting residuals and small commercial work. Today at 68, he resides in San Mateo, California, far from the chaos of Los Angeles, a life of deliberate invisibility. McClure remains the forgotten McFly, always present, yet never fully seen, a figure defined by persistence in obscurity, whose quiet survival in the industry contrasts sharply with the dramatic lives and scandals of his more celebrated peers. Tom Wilson was born on April 15, 1959, and played Biff Tannen in Back to the Future in 1985, at age 26, the quintessential bully, whose over-the-top antics and cruel humor made him a timeless foil for Marty McFly. On screen, Biff was violent, manipulative, and relentlessly aggressive. Yet Wilson's off-screen life contrasted sharply. Behind the grin lurked a man shaped by disciplined faith and an unusual sensitivity for someone so closely associated with villainy. Raised in a devout Catholic family in Pennsylvania, Wilson grew up under strict rules, often mocked by classmates for his intellect and musical pursuits, including tuba and debate competitions, forcing him to hide his emotions behind humor and stoicism. His career was a constant struggle against typecasting. After Back to the Future, he found himself trapped in villainous roles, often dismissed by casting directors as too Biff, and his attempts at stand-up and voice work sometimes drew harsh criticism for lack of subtlety. Industry insiders whispered that he could be controlling on set, occasionally clashing with directors over character interpretation, though he never crossed into scandalous behavior. Wilson's personal life has been unusually stable for Hollywood. His marriage to Carolyn Thomas has endured, yet he remains intensely private, rarely discussing family or personal matters in interviews. Beyond acting, Wilson is a painter. Though galleries have often rejected his work as too commercial, a stinging professional slight he quietly resents. Despite decades in film, he has never escaped Biff's shadow with public recognition, always tied to a character defined by cruelty. At 66, his net worth is estimated at $4 million, derived from acting voice work and art. But his legacy is bittersweet. A talented performer, perpetually associated with a bully. A man whose gentler side remains hidden beneath layers of audience expectation and long-standing typecasting. Thank you for joining us on this nostalgic journey through classic television history. If you enjoyed learning about the cast of Back to the Future and where they are now, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe for more vintage Hollywood retrospectives, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing your memories and suggestions, so let us know which TV show or movie cast you'd like us to feature next.